Hello, and thank you for joining us today in our studies of Second Kings. Today we reach our final lesson in this book as we come to some lessons from Second Kings chapter 25. And here in this chapter, it's really the culmination of everything that's been leading into it from the last several chapters. And that is going to be the final destruction of Jerusalem. Now, as we go through this, there's not necessarily a lot of moral lessons that I'm going to be pulling out of it today, or moral applications per se. We're going to be talking about more of the historical side of the lessons that we have, but there's some principles that we do need to understand from it. Let's look at three things from this chapter today. First of all, in the early parts of the chapter, and actually going back into the last statements of chapter 24, you have Zedekiah's rebellion. Now, if you recall, back in chapter 24, you have a situation which has occurred where Jehoiakim has displeased Nebuchadnezzar, and he is going to be replaced, he is going to be removed to Babylon, he is going to be carried away there, and Zedekiah is going to be placed on the throne. Now, Zedekiah is a puppet king. He has no true authority of his own. He is there at the behest of King Nebuchadnezzar. And because of that, you have a situation where Zedekiah is going to sit there and he is going to quietly do what he is supposed to do for the first 8 years or so. And then Zedekiah in the 9th year is going to rebel. Zedekiah is going to refuse to continue to do what it is that Nebuchadnezzar has put him in place to do. And so Nebuchadnezzar is going to come in the 9th year of Zedekiah's reign against Jerusalem. He is going to lay siege to the city for 2 years. And for 2 years, the people are going to basically run out of food. They are going to begin to starve. As a matter of fact, it is stated that by the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine had become so severe in the city that there was no food for the people of the land. He is going to crush the will of the people of Jerusalem once and for all. You know, it's already a situation where he has taken away many individuals. There's already been 2 carryings away at this point. But with Zedekiah's rebellion, Nebuchadnezzar sets out to teach Jerusalem a lesson that she will never forget. And so you have this situation where Nebuchadnezzar is going to lay complete siege to the city. Nothing gets in or out. There's going to come a time where the military men and the king are going to flee, and yet they're not going to get very far. They are going to be captured, they are going to be caught. Zedekiah is going to be put to death, or he's rather going to have his eyes plucked out. He's not going to be put to death. He's going to see his sons killed in front of him. Then his eyes are going to be plucked out, and he's going to be carried to Babylon in chains. Zedekiah's rebellion did not go well. Zedekiah's rebellion led to a final carrying away that is a much smaller carrying away than the first 2. And it's also going to lead to the destruction of Jerusalem. You know, Nebuchadnezzar was going to let Jerusalem stand. He was going to let Jerusalem remain. But with the rebellion, the final punishment is going to be the destruction of Jerusalem. Nebuzaradan, who is the chief captain of the army of Nebuchadnezzar, is going to come into Jerusalem, and he is going to ransack the city. He is going to plunder the temple, and he is going to burn everything of value in the city. All of the great houses, the king's palace, the temple, the walls of the city are going to be broken down so that there is not one stone left upon another. But in the midst of all this, what you have is God fulfilling his promises, because God has been telling the people of Judah for 100 years that this is going to happen. that these things are going to take place, and that this is going to be the consequence of their hard-heartedness and of their unwillingness to fulfill their obligations to God. Yet they did not believe them. They did not believe the prophets that God sent. They did not believe the messages that God made available. You turn over, as we've talked earlier, about the book of Jeremiah. You look at what Jeremiah says, and you look at the way that Jeremiah is mocked and ridiculed and rebuked for the things that he says in speaking for God, in trying to tell Judah what it is that is causing her to fall. And you see a lot of things that remind us of our world today, because people are no different. And yet you have a situation where God is going to show Israel that he does what he says he's going to do, and he means what he says. The fall of Jerusalem should not come as a surprise to the people of Judea, or to the kingdom of Judah, because they had been hearing that it was coming for a very long time. And Nebuzaradan is going to accomplish what it is that God said would take place. But then in the third place here in this chapter, you have a governor that is set up. He is not a king, but rather he is a king-appointed governor. His name is Gedaliah. And Gedaliah is going to rule over what remains of the land of Judah. After Jerusalem is destroyed, Zedekiah is carried into captivity, and the final judgment upon the people of Judah has come. Gedaliah is going to be made the governor, but it's going to just be for a short period of time before one portion of the royal family is going to come and they're going to assassinate him. And so there's going to be further disorder in the region, and then those who are associated in any way with this group that comes in and kills Gedaliah are going to flee to Egypt. And it is there that they are going to remain. If you go back again to Jeremiah, Jeremiah is going to be among those that is going to go down to Egypt. And so during this time, there are several books of the prophets that are a part of what is going on. You're going to have Daniel, who is going to be in Babylon. He was carried away in the first carrying away back in chapter 24. You're going to have Ezekiel that is going to be carried away into the places where the captives are that are going to be carried away at the time of Jehoiakim. And then you're going to have Jeremiah, who is going to make it through all three carryings away, but then he is going to be forced to go to Egypt with those who have been left behind in Judah. All of these things are brought out by the events that happen in 2 Kings chapters 23, 24, and 25. But now we come to the end of the book of 2 Kings. There is going to be more to the story that's going to come. You read the books of Daniel and Ezekiel and Ezra and Nehemiah, and you read concerning the time in captivity, and you read concerning the return. And one day, I hope for us to be able to go through some of those books. We've already done Ezekiel, but to go through and do Ezra and Nehemiah and the return of the people of God. But next, we are going to begin a study through the book of Mark. We're going to move to the New Testament for the first time and begin a study through Mark's gospel account. I hope that you'll join us then and be a part of that study. But until then, well, you know, have a great day.